I'm Russian. I was born and lived my whole life in Moscow, so I know exactly what I'm talking about. In late September 2026, Russia will hold a 3-day vote for the State Duma, the lower house of parliament. The 450 deputies elected there will pass laws, approve the state budget, and formally sign off on the government's makeup. On paper, that sounds like an ordinary democratic procedure familiar to anyone in America or Europe. In reality, these elections are happening in a country where a real opposition gets thrown in prison, every major social media platform is blocked, prices are rising faster than wages, and drones leave whole regions without gasoline every week. In this video, we will break down what's actually happening behind the facade of these elections, and I will explain every Russia-specific term along the way so it makes sense if you have never followed Russian politics before. My name is Anastasia, I'm a 19-year-old entrepreneur and I run this channel about history and politics. Don't forget to subscribe and hit like. We already have clear mathematical proof that previous Russian elections were massively falsified, and there is no reason to think September 2026 will be any different. Independent physics and statistician Sergei Shpilkin developed a method that compares turnout and voting results at every single polling station against a standard statistical distribution. The idea is simple. If people vote honestly and there are enough polling stations, the results should form a smooth, symmetrical curve like any large set of random data would. Sharp spikes at suspiciously round turnout numbers like exactly 90% or 100% at individual stations are statistically almost impossible in honest voting and usually means someone manually stuffed the ballot box. In the 2024 presidential election, that curve was completely destroyed. According to calculations by Novaya Gazeta Europe using Shpilkin's method, at least 22 million fraudulent votes were added for Putin. Of the 12 parties allowed to run in 2026 election without extra registration hurdles, only one, Yabloko, openly opposes the war, running under the slogan "For peace and freedom, for a life without fear." Yabloko is Russia's oldest liberal party, founded back in 1993, named after the first letters of its founders' last names. The price for taking an anti-war stance has been brutal. 32 party members have already been barred from running. 58 were fined, including 36 for so-called discrediting of the military. A separate article in Russia's Administrative and Criminal Code passed in March 2022, right after the full-scale invasion began, under which you can get fined or actually imprisoned just for speaking publicly against the war or the army. 29 party members were detained. 13 are facing criminal prosecution. 8 people are sitting in prison right now on politically motivated charges. 12 people have been labeled foreign agents. That's a separate Russian legal status assigned to people organizations the state believes are connected to foreign influence, often just for criticizing the government or receiving any income from abroad, including income from foreign platforms like YouTube. Honestly, I couldn't care less. If anything, I will be thrilled to get your donations through the link in the description. Anyone with that status has to slap a giant warning label on every single thing they publish. They are banned from working in government and with minors, and the label itself functions as a social stigma that seriously complicated everyday life, finding work and even banking. The party's list leader in the last election, Nikolai Rybakov, can't run at all after a court ruling over displaying extremist symbols. In February 2024, the day opposition politician Alexei Navalny died, Rybakov posted a photo of him along with a message of condolence to his family and friends. Under Russian law, images of Navalny are officially classified as extremist symbols. The remaining 11 approved parties function in practice as what's called systematic opposition in Russia. These are parties allowed to run in elections and sometimes even publicly criticize specific government decisions, but that never question the war itself or the president's power itself. This is fundamentally different from how opposition works in Western democracies, where an opposition party can openly campaign to replace the entire government. These elections are happening in a country where nearly every major social media platform has been banned one after another. WhatsApp has been completely blocked since February 2026. Instagram and Facebook have been blocked since 2022 and are officially classified as extremist organizations. YouTube isn't technically blocked, but it's been trolled so badly that watching a video is basically impossible. Roskomnadzor is responsible for all of this. It's a government agency, Russia's version of a federal communication regulator with the power to officially restrict access to any website or service inside the country. By the end of February 2026, Roskomnadzor had already blocked 469 VPN services, the apps people normally use to get around these blocks, and since October 2025, it's had the power to block them without a court order at all. According to Freedom House, Russia has the second worst internet freedom score on the planet, only North Korea ranks lower. Official inflation in Russia sits at around 6% a year, the highest among major world economies. But inflation specifically on gasoline is close to 20%, a separate and much sharper number. According to a Gallup poll, 60% of Russia says the economic situation is getting worse, the highest reading in 20 years of polling. The cause of the fuel crisis, Ukrainian drones are methodically hitting the country's oil refineries, which are critical for domestic gasoline supply. Since the start of 2026, there have been 194 successful strikes on refineries, 11 times more than over the same period the year before. By July 2026, 8 of the country's 10 largest refineries had been hit, including the Omsk refinery, Russia's biggest, located almost 2,500 kilometers from the front line, which on its own shows how far Ukrainians' long-range strike capability has grown during the war. According to the Financial Times, the fuel shortage has already affected 50 million Russians, 35% of the population. Nearly 50 regions have imposed restriction on gasoline sales, and in Crimea, fuel is only sold through electronic vouchers under an official state of emergency. Mathematical proof of fraud, the only anti-war party being crushed, blocked social networks, rising prices on top of a fuel crisis, and a war that kills my fellow citizens and Ukrainians every single day. These aren't 5 separate problems. They're one and the same system working to make sure people inside the country have no real way left to either learn the truth or actually influence anything fraud voting. Calling what happens in September a real election in the sense that war means in the West will be a stretch. The question isn't who wins, that's already known. The question is how many more times this process can be repeated before the reality inside the country becomes too obvious to ignore, even for the official statistics. Let me know what you think in the comments and drop your ideas for what I should cover next.